The worlds of Philip Pullman are coming to life on the small screen. Are they any good? Let's find out. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello my friends, my name is Andrew Fantasia. Welcome to Thumb Together TV. As always, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Otherwise, I will be folded into a separate reality and I will never be able to escape because I don't have the subtle knife in my possession. And if you don't know what I mean, you're probably not going to enjoy His Dark Materials. The His Dark Materials book trilogy is a very interesting, mature, young readers fantasy trilogy that came out in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken, and it is really unlike any other fantasy you will ever read. It's marketed as a children's book because the main characters are children, and it's even written in like a flowery, whimsical, childlike narrative voice, but it is one of the darkest, most complex fantasies ever put to paper. Even after reading the whole trilogy twice, I still have some moments where I'm like, what exactly was going on at this point? Needless to say, it's complicated. So when they tried to make it into a movie trilogy a la Lord of the Rings back in the early 2000s, it sank harder than a submarine full of bullet holes. Thankfully, though, I think the complexity of the story lends itself much better to something like this. Now, it's been a long wait since this was announced. His Dark Materials is finally here. What do I think of the first episode, Lyra's Jordan? Honestly, I think that the set design is one of the strongest things coming out of this show, just right out of the gate, because everything looks, not only does it look good, not only does Oxford look great, not only does, all the airships and everything all look fantastic, not only does the Magisterium, when we see that quick glimpse of that huge temple, that huge church in the Magisterium, not only does that look absolutely beautiful and a place where I want to visit, it looks exactly like what I pictured reading the books, especially Jordan College at Oxford. It just looks exactly like what I always imagined that would look like, right down to like her Spartan little bedchamber where the people, the servants come and wake her up and they're like, get down to the kitchen or whatever. That looks just like spot on like what was in my head when she is running with Pan along the rooftops. All of it is perfect. Talk about plucking something off a page, putting it in front of a screen, full points there. One really interesting thing to me was the way they depicted Lord Asriel. In the books and in the movie where he was played by Daniel Craig, Lord Asriel never really comes across as a sympathetic dude. He's a big enigma. You only ever see him through Lyra's eyes, so he's this towering, dark, brooding figure who never really has the time of day for anything other than his work. And that definitely comes across here. In the show, James McAvoy, he does not have a moment to spare for anybody. Not even Lyra, who is apparently his own family, his niece. He's just like, yeah, whatever, kid, screw off, I'm busy. That is, without a doubt, Lord Asriel. That's how he rolls. He's just a one-track kind of guy. However, they really hammered home a few little sprinkles of sympathy. They made him more likable than I think he has been depicted in other His Dark Materials versions before. And it could be for any number of reasons, but I'm curious. My question is, for all the people out there who have read the books, I wonder if they're doing this, if they're instilling sympathy in Asriel now, because of the fact that, spoilers for the books here, and potentially for the series, for a long, long time, it is going to feel like Lord Asriel is the bad guy. It really does feel, while you're going through these books, that Asriel is the main villain of the series. And he sort of is, but he sort of isn't, depending on your philosophy coming out of the book trilogy. Guys, this is not some dinky little fantasy with clear-cut, black and white, good and evil kind of stuff. This is really heady, philosophical, meta-religious stuff, and it will wrinkle your brain. So I'm wondering if the writers wanted to give us these little moments of sympathy for Asriel so that we carry that with us throughout the season. So that it's not a matter of we finally get to the end of whatever season 3 and then we're like, oh, okay, maybe he wasn't as bad as we thought he was. Instead, they're giving us this character who's got these flaws but also got these little charming qualities to him. So they're letting you make the decision for yourself right off the bat instead of waiting till the end to make you reflect on what you've seen. That's what I gather. I know that's weird and confusing, I'm sorry, but that's just what I think of when I think of Lord Asriel, because he really is a very unique kind of character. And it's nice to see somebody as skilled as James McAvoy stepping into his very big snow boots. If the show has a weakness, I think its biggest weakness right now is that the exposition feels rushed. It feels as rushed as if this was a movie instead of a TV show. When we went through that huge slew in the early 2000s where the success of Lord of the Rings prompted everybody and their uncle to adapt a fantasy novel series into a big budget fantasy trilogy or series or what have you for the big screen, we got into that rut where those movies were full of exposition because these worlds are full of lore that needs to be explained, and they ended up feeling really rushed. Like when you watch the Golden Compass movie, which I don't think anybody has for 17 years, when you watch the Chronicles of Narnia movies, when you watch the first Harry Potter, you get that really rushed exposition where half of it is done in ADR because it's like they're just trying to cram so much information into 2 hours, and it really is to their detriment. I mean, go back and watch Harry Potter 1. Fast forward to the part where they get to Hogwarts for the first time and just look at how much of an info dump you get in those 4 minutes of screen time where they step into the castle. Like, oh, the ceiling is enchanted. I read about that in Hogwarts history. Look, it's the bloody Baron. I'm going to put him in Slytherin. There's not a witch or wizard went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You're like, slow down. Pace yourself. And unfortunately, the movies need to be rushed like this because they only have so much time. Hollywood doesn't like making 3.5-hour movies, despite how I feel. So they try to cram everything into a 2-hour thing. So you get that rushed exposition that really does nobody any favors. And I felt like there was some of that coming through in his Dark Materials. It felt like it had that pace to it where it's trying to get to the point faster than it needs to, because this is an 8-episode HBO series. The point isn't coming for another 8 weeks. We're not going to be sitting here for a 2-hour slew and then it's over. So I just hope that they don't continue with that pace. I hope they keep it slow, keep it steady, let us have things unfold in a more natural course of time. And they are doing that at some points, especially with character introductions. We don't meet Mrs. Coulter until really late in the episode. We don't see Lee Scoresby or Yorick Burnison at all. So they are taking their time with some of these intros and whatnot. But the exposition dump is sometimes still there, and it really does feel like the show is on fast forward during some of those parts. It really has that Harry Potter 1, step into Hogwarts for the first time, hear all the information in one paragraph kind of feeling to it. So I hope they just slow down and take their time and we get something that's a lot more leisurely paced, because a good story like this deserves that. But that was Lyra's Jordan. That was the first episode of his Dark Materials. What did you think of this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Andrew Fantasia. I will see you here next time, and until then, adios.